I'm excited to spend a minute with my friend Piero, who is sitting in Europe at the current moment, enjoying a little glass of wine with me. We're going to have a little discussion, catch up on all things Chakra, and real excited about your project, your investments, your project, your future. This Chakra brand is setting the world on fire right now because these are exciting wines made by yourself and Jean-Marc Rouleau, and you've got just a tremendous amount of energy behind this. So congratulations, Piero.
Thank you. I want to clarify there's a whole team behind us. Without them, this would be impossible. So it's really a collaboration with nature and a team of people.
We are talking about Patagonia today, and that's not usually the first place you think of in Argentina for fine wine. But how did this happen? In general, how did you determine Patagonia was the place you wanted to land?
But the story started a little bit before I knew even what I wanted. I worked for my family business for 15 years and maybe 20. We have a winery in Tuscany, and I decided that I wanted to make Pinot on my own because I have an affinity for Pinot. And so I took a sabbatical of my life, my work life, after having tasted a wine blind in New York. It was a Pinot that the whole table believed came from Burgundy, but in reality, the Pinot turned out was from Patagonia, Rio Negro, Argentina. And so I couldn't shake the profile of this wine in my palate. When I taste, I have a tendency of seeing colors, and so this wine for me there was a lot of blues, there was a lot of violets. It was very fresh. It was very interesting. The wine per se was not maybe the best of wine, but there were characteristics that I thought was super interesting. So I hopped on a plane and I went down to the valley of Rio Negro, the Alto Valle, and I started looking around for vineyards. And I realized that it's sort of one of the, I don't know, it's for me, it's a very strange phenomenon because it's a whole valley packed with very old vineyards. Everything is Massal selection. Everything is pre-Phyllospora. And they have a patrimony of older vineyards that are completely available. And so we decided to try our luck. I rented a vineyard, made wine, and the wine showed interesting characteristics. And so I kept renting the vineyards, and the third vintage that we made, we decided to sell it to the public, was 1,330 bottles. This was in 2004. And this is how we started. And today we cannot believe our luck. We're able to make wines that come from vineyards that are farmed with no chemicals. I mean, no chemicals. So for us, that alone is reaching nirvana. And when the grapes come into the winery, this place is so pure and so clean that we don't do much to the grapes. We don't use a commercial yeast. We do not inoculate. We don't use anything. What we might do at élevage and at bottling, we might use some sulfur. Typically, all the wines are below 40 ppm, which is parts per million, and some wines have no sulfur at all, like the Sinasufre collection. So
before we talk about the wines, just want to take a look at a couple of pictures with you, Piero, and then we'll go into the Chardonnay and then the Pinot Noir, and just kind of setting the mood here, about how it feels and the tempo, the energy of the property. You know, you've been farming it biodynamically,
For
and
20 years.
20 years. And
Yeah.
it probably wasn't far from biodynamic when you got it, right? I mean, it's just like,
No, I mean, you know, it was pretty much abandoned. So the vineyards were always organic in the sense that, you know, for me, it's not important organic or biodynamic. For me, it's important to make an agriculture that is regenerative if it's needed, and to get to a point where you almost don't touch with anything. And so, of course, there's a path to get from point A to point B, because sometimes people use chemicals in their vineyards. So if that's the case, you need to cleanse them. Where we are is very easy, because imagine that the vineyards, that some vineyards that we planted in the life of the planet, the soil had never been farmed. And so the energy that is present in the soil, due to the lack of chemicals, right? Because in Europe we use chemicals for 60 years. So and besides having used chemicals from 60 to 80 years, we've also cultivated the same land for thousands of years. So we've been depleting a lot of the stuff. For us, this is clean, pure. And so we're starting from a beautiful canvas, and the ecosystem collaborates at an incredible pace. You have this very clear blue sky. You have this continuous wind that serves as a cleansing factor. You're in the desert, so you have very cold nights, which is perfect for the plants, so they can recuperate at night. Everybody knows deserts have incredible luminosity, so for us, ripening is never an issue. So you have this setting that is idyllic, you know, and the fact that it was not populated until, imagine this, until 100 years ago, it was not populated. And so these are situations that for a European, they're very hard to relate to, you know, because we have the Greeks, the Romans, the Greeks, the Etruscans, the Phoenicians. I mean, it's a never-ending story for us. And so we are lucky, because we are within an ecosystem that is very clean, is very pure, and there's no chemicals around us, because we bought enough land to establish buffers in all areas of the farm. And we try to simply help the ecosystem by adding a few things. So we decided to add more trees to create more shade and to protect the grapes from this constant wind. So we planted around 35,000 trees. Then we decided to add bees to help with the pollination. We have some wild yellow jacket bees that are, some studies suggest that they're able to reproduce indigenous yeast in a prolific way every year. And to that, we added 230 beehives of honeybees. And so that,
Piero, what's the total size of the property?
it's not that big, you know. Maybe overall we have around 1,000 acres, but the lion's share of the property is desert land, so it's meaningless, you know. But for us, it was important to create this little Garden of Eden where the ecosystem is in balance and we don't really have to intervene with anything. You know, let the system take care of itself. So what we noticed, that ladybugs, armadillos, all sorts of birds, because we have an estuary where we are. So there's a broad varieties of birds. It's crazy. We have falcons everywhere. We have eagles. I mean, you name it. And of course, because the human didn't live there until 100 years ago, you have a lot of bugs, by bugs, I'm trying to be polite, but we have not polite, maybe not scary. We have like giant spiders this big. We have coral snakes. You know, there is, of course, because it's their environment.
Sure.
So one of the big draws is this very pristine ecosystem that it's placed within a climate that it's really conducive to the growth of Mediterranean like fruit. And with the advantage of having none of these diseases that you find in the Mediterranean basin today, Pronospora, Phyllosfera, you know, like we're inundated with that. So it's almost like this crazy, unexpected reality. And the energy is very strong, again, because there is no contamination from human, whether it's electromagnetic waves or Wi-Fi signal, you know, like you're not within a dense, populated metropolitan area. You're in Argentinian desert. So you'll see when you come, you look up in the sky at night, you can touch the stars. It's really, it's fantastic. So the reason was I always, I think I've been, I don't want to use the word indoctrinated because it's got a negative connotation, but as a kid, my grandmother and my grandfather from my paternal side were very influential in our education. And, you know, was always lack of chemicals and like it was a fantastic school of life. So I'm just repeating, I think, what I've observed consciously and unconsciously as a kid. I'm not reinventing anything, you know, like taking care of your community, taking care of your farm, not using any chemicals, raise your own animals, use the animal manure as a fertilizer. And so that way you keep your costs down and the ecosystem is in balance. You know, remember we had cows for milk and manure, not for meat, you know, and we had chickens so that they give you eggs. So the idea is to be in balance with the ecosystem around us, and we felt it needed a little bit of a help in the beginning to get back in balance. So beehives were one of the ways for us to contribute with that, and planting. You know, we planted 7,000 plants of lavender, 8,000 plants of roses. We've structured all the property from a gardening point of view in a way that we can provide year-round food for everything.
Beautiful.
Sorry, I took off on a tangent and I spoke a lot about it.
Beautiful. I love it. It's good. We're gonna keep it all. We're gonna talk now about the 2022 Mankay. We don't pronounce.
Yeah.
It, you said, yeah.
Mankay. I am smiling because I think Chacra and Jean-Marc did an incredible job in the 2022 vintage. You know, it was a perfect vintage. The year was smooth, very cold winter that killed all the bugs. We went up to -9. A beautiful, even flowering season in the spring, promoted a lot of balance and health, no heat waves whatsoever. And then a beautiful summer too, not extremely hot, the nights were cold. So when we got to picking the whites, we were super bullish, and I think that the results are insane. I mean, I'm very proud of Jean-Marc, and I'm very proud of the team, because I think that together they managed to, in a very serious, sober, informed, tangible way, they brought a Chardonnay to the market from a country that is always seen as a third-tier country or fourth-tier country for quality as opposed to pricing. And I know that you taste this wine blind with some of the best Chardonnay in the world, and they're neck to neck. I can say this because I haven't made the wine, so I take no credit. This is all Jean-Marc and the team. But for me, the Mankay Chardonnay, it tastes like a freaking delicious Chablis. That tension, that it's straight. It's mineral, is a umami. That the touch of like salinity that the wine carries is just great, and it's versatile with food. All of this are like 12.5 of alcohol. So yeah.
I got to taste these recently. The 22 is new to the store, and immediately, you know, when you taste great wine, and I've had the pleasure of tasting your wines year after year. I'm always looking forward to seeing what's going on. You picked up these 22 whites, both of them, the higher end one as well. Just they both, like, you were like, whoa, that that is it's always a good wine. You probably wouldn't put your name on it. You probably wouldn't put your brand on it if it wasn't good wine. But you could tell that the 2022 has a little something extra going for it. And vintage is always relevant. But you know, you've been doing this for a few years now. You've probably got your game going really well, and then the vintage played right into your hands. And this is just a fantastic wine. $60 compared to what else is in the marketplace around this price point. It's a relative value. And I think the 22 Chardonnay has a really nice life in front of it too. You could drink it
Yeah.
immediately.
Can I tell you a small anecdote?
Yeah.
They held a tasting at the French embassy in Buenos Aires, and the sommelier came from France, and they tasted blinds. And there's a certain moment that she goes, stop, you're trying to trick me. And they're like, you know, everybody was a little surprised. What do you mean tricky? It's like, you know, says, yeah, this white wine is Chardonnay, but this is not an Argentinian Chardonnay. This is a Chardonnay that it comes from Meursault and is made by Jean-Marc Rouleau. And so the lady, her counterpart from Argentina said, well, you're half right. What do you mean? Because it's made by Jean-Marc Rouleau, but it's made in Argentina. So she uncovered the bottle. And she goes, oh my God, if French people knew that Jean-Marc made this quality of wine here, they would all come to Argentina and buy all the Chardonnay that Jean-Marc made.
And if just as a side note, you know, go to Wine Searcher and put in Rouleau, Meursault, and see what those wines sell for.
If you find them.
If you find them, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal collaboration here, Piero. You're an incredible conductor, and I'm very proud to offer this wine. I think it's something remarkable. We're going to taste it right now, Piero, with everyone, and then we'll talk about this Pinot Noir.
So Barda for me, you want me to talk about Barda for a second or not?
Sure, let's go for it. We're ready.
Barda is very close to my heart because Barda was born like from the get-go as a true second wine. So historically, what is a second wine? A second wine is made with the leftovers of the first wine. You know, you're a farmer, you don't throw anything away, everything is precious. You need to save your pennies. You know, you're always at the mercy of nature. And so typically in the old days, you only made one wine. People made one wine. It's not like today. And there were always some barrels that were not up to par. So you didn't bottle them in that one wine. So that one wine stayed very good. You bottle, and then you had 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, depending on the size of your production, you had wine left, right? So of course, you're not going to throw it away. It's too much for you to drink it. So you bottle it, but you sell it at a much lesser price because it's not, even though it's the same vineyard and it's the same batch, it's not of the same quality, or at least it didn't make the cut, for the lack of a better word. So the first vintage of Barda was 2004. And I think we made 2,000 bottles, and it was all the leftover of the 32. So it was born like a real second wine.
32 is a vineyard that you own that was planted in 1932.
Yeah. So of course the first Barda is like a bomb. You know, it's like this insane wine. But of course, you know, Barda was born as a second wine. His first birthday, it happened to be a son of the 32, but then I bought another farm where there were 25-year-old vineyards of Pinot, and that was dedicated to Barda. So what's Barda today? It's 100% Pinot Noir of a vineyard that is pre-phylloxera, so its own rootstock. It's certified organic and biodynamic, like all of our farming and all of our wines, and is a soil that is with a 80% component of sand, and then there is a touch of silt, and there is river pebbles at 1 meter of depth, which are white because they're covered by calcareous matter. So what does it mean? It means that you find in Barda a wine that is very transparent, very very clean. The fruit is very precise and not overripe. It's fresh fruit, and it's very floral as well. So Barda typically is a wine that I believe should be drank young, a little bit cooler if you can, and is super versatile because you can have it with pasta, you can have it with pizza, you can have it with chicken, you can have it with veal, you can have it with a variety of things, you can have it with roasted salmon. Barda is always around 12% alcohol, and it's a little racy because there is a 10 to 20% of stems. We only use 30% oak to age it, which is used oak. The rest is cement, and there is some amphora. So the aging of Barda has changed a little bit, like the rivage has changed through the years, in order to remove all the superfluous and for you really to take this crunchiness of this vineyard. And I think we managed to accomplish what we wanted. So it over-delivers, in my view. I have a buddy of mine that says, your wine is way too cheap. And I disagree with the idea. For me, the fact that we are from Argentina, the fact that from Rio Negro, we're only 20 years old. I want to be able to have at least one label that you can afford and you can try what we do, and that can be sold by the glass. And so we're keeping the price artificially low to be able to share as much as we can for our clients that they might not be able to afford the other wines because they're a little bit more expensive. We're not on the super high-end level, but we want to try to have at least one wine that is affordable to everyone.
I'm just going to go into the website and pull up the different wines that we carry. Technically, I plan to carry all of them. But one I'm out of stock on right now, and this is the kind of the look at the lineup that we have. So we sold through all of our 2020 Mankay, so we're in the 22. We have some of the single vineyard Chacra Chardonnays from 21 and 22, and it looks like I have a little 20 as well. So very little here, a little more here, and I think as soon as I got the 21, the 22s arrived. So both these are new additions to the website. The Trenti Edos is the 1932 vineyard, and then we have the Sin Azufre, which is no additional sulfur.
Yeah, basically it's a wine that started as an experiment, and I wanted to experiment without any additions to see what would come out of curiosity. Chacra is a little bit like a Formula One in the sense that we do a lot of research and development constantly. We push the envelope constantly. And so this was an experiment that we did it. We only use, I only use human sensorial tools, palate, nose, ears, hands. And it's made with grapes from a vineyard that was planted in 1955. I love this wine. It's delicious. It's floral, it's racy, it's low on alcohol, it's very long. It's one of the sexiest wine we make, according to some of our consumers.
Well,
You know that once I was in a tasting for my family wine. I
Yeah.
was pouring Sassicaia, and it was in Canada, and this girl goes to me, can I have some Sassicaia for a sassy girl? And I had no idea what sassy girl meant. So I felt like a total loser. And
You got to write a book.
anyhow, sorry, you live, you learn.
You got to write a book. Well, it was great to hang out with you this morning for me, this evening for you. I look forward to bringing a group to Bodega Chacra in October, and I too will have some great stories about your property. Hopefully, very few about giant spiders, but we will.
It's the winter, you'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be the winter.
They're hiding. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, don't worry, they're hiding. For real.
All right, love you, man. Thank you so much for the time.
Be good and reach out whenever you need. Take care. Love you too.
Well, bye.
Bye.